This is VOA Africa. Hello, I'm Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori in for Esther the U-Word. It's Friday, December the 11th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what is going on, and we appreciate your staying with us on Africa 54. In a U.S.-brokered deal, Israel and Morocco have agreed to recognize each other. This follows three other Arab countries, Bahrain, Sudan, and the United Arab Emirates, recently establishing ties with the Jewish state, which several times since its modern founding in the late 1940s has found itself at war with its Muslim-majority neighbors. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the deal between Morocco and Israel on Twitter on Thursday, calling it a historic and massive breakthrough for peace in the Middle East. Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner says it is a continuation of the president's regional diplomacy known as the Abraham Accords. And, quote, this comes on the heels of 4 years of very, very hard work and very intense diplomacy that has occurred. Kushner is predicting that more countries will normalize ties with Israel. Meanwhile, Israelis have welcomed the normalization of diplomatic ties with Morocco. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling the deal between the two countries a, quote, historic peace between us. Netanyahu says the deal will lead to direct flights between Morocco and Israel, and that the fourth U.S. brokered peace deal between Israel and an Arab country in recent months would be a very warm peace. Morocco was the Muslim country from which the greatest number of Jews emigrated to Israel after the 1948 creation of the state. A small Jewish community remains in the North African country. A former United Nations official says if the U.S. recognition of Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara is sustained, in the future it will complicate the Security Council's efforts to resolve the Western Sahara problem. Ambassador James Jonah, former United Nations Under-Secretary General for Political Affairs, says the UN has an established policy that the final status of Western Sahara will be determined by a referendum. President Trump signed a proclamation Thursday recognizing Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara. He says the support for Morocco's autonomy is the only basis for a just and lasting solution to the dispute over the Western Sahara territory. Trump says the U.S. will open a consulate in Dakhala to promote economic and business opportunities for the region. Omar Sidi, the Polisario representative to the United Nations, says the U.S. recognition of Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara is another escalation of U.S. interference in African affairs. He is urging the African Union to step up and ensure that the United States respects the sovereignty of Africa to determine its own affairs. Ambassador Jonah says it's possible that another U.S. administration could reverse the decision, but if it's sustained and the U.S. uses its veto power in the Security Council, it could complicate efforts to resolve the Western Sahara issue. Tigrayan forces are accusing the Ethiopian government of partnering with the United Arab Emirates to conduct drone strikes. The Ethiopian government denies the claims, and military experts say there is no evidence to support the claim, but worries persist about the proliferation of armed drones in Africa. VOA Salim Solomon spoke to experts to provide clarity and has our report.
Tigrayan forces have accused the Ethiopian government of partnering with the United Arab Emirates to use weaponized drones stationed in Eritrea. The Ethiopian government denies the claim, and security analysts say there is no evidence of the use of UAE drones in the region, but concerns are growing in the international community about the participation of outside actors in the conflict, as well as the use of drones in African conflicts. Wims Winnenberg is a humanitarian disarmament project leader for PAX, an organization studying conflict worldwide and conducting research on the use of military technologies.
It's true that there are Emirati drones based in Eritrea. However, The next question is, would they have been used in Ethiopia? And in that regard, we couldn't find any indication that the Emiratis would fly drones in Ethiopia.
Zwanenberg has been studying satellite imagery collected by the U.S. company Planet Lab. He determined that drones operated by the UAE are stationed at the Aircham port city of Aseb. The 20-meter wingspan Chinese-made drones known as Wing Long 2 are capable of dropping bombs or shooting missiles. The Ethiopian government said it has conducted targeted strikes against strategic targets in Tigray region, but did not say whether the strikes were made by fighter jets or some other aerial platform. Major General Yilma Merdesa, the chief of the Ethiopian Air Force, told VOA Amharic that the TPLF is spreading falsehoods about other countries' involvement and that the central government didn't ask for any outside assistance.
We are attacking the enemy in three directions. First is an aviation attack. The second is a surface-to-air missile. And the third one, built over the past 2 years, and one of the greatest capacities we have, is UAV, or unmanned aerial vehicle. We have trained and armed ourselves, and we are doing the work from the center, and other assertions are deception. We are destroying the enemy with a force we built ourselves.
Zwanenberg said Ethiopia has the fourth largest air force on the continent, flying MiG-23 and Sukhoi-27 jet fighters. He said the cell phone video uploaded to Facebook appears to show fighter jets flying over the city of Mekelle in northern Ethiopia.
We could not find any indication that those drones have been used by the Ethiopian Air Force, but only found indications that piloted aircraft, jet fighters, have been carried out targeted strikes. So in that sense, it's good to look at the statements made and fact check those with what we know from the ground and from open source information and satellite imagery.
There is precedent for the UAE piloting weaponized drones on the African continent. According to the UN, the UAE has conducted drone strikes, as has Turkey.
States have an interest in drones because it removes the risk from the pilot. They're relatively cheap and they can stay over a large area for a long time, making them very sort of a seductive way to use lethal force in operations where you otherwise wouldn't expose your own troops to risk because they could be killed.
Fact-checking efforts are enabled with the help of satellite imagery and other technologies as observers continue to monitor such activities. Salam Solomon, VOA News, Washington.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has chosen retired General Lloyd Austin to be his defense secretary. If confirmed, Austin will be the first black U.S. Secretary of Defense. For more insight on the significance of the selection of General Austin and the challenges he might face, I spoke with VOA Pentagon correspondent Caleb Babb.
General Lloyd Austin, he's actually special to me personally because he was the U.S. Central Commander when I came in at the Pentagon at 2014. He led the command from 2013 to 2016, and he at the time was the first African American to serve in that position. If he is confirmed by the Senate, if he is indeed Joe Biden's nominee, which multiple sources have said he will be the first African American for that position. That's a huge deal. The other big contender for the position, Michelle Flournoy, if she was chosen, she would have been the first female defense secretary for the United States. So groundbreaking either way with the top positions, the top people that Joe Biden has been looking at. The thing about General Austin is he has a very good relationship with Joe Biden, whereas Michelle Flournoy and President-elect Biden often butted heads. She was considered more hawkish. She came up with the plan, for example, in Afghanistan to increase the troop numbers. Austin came in later in the game in the Obama administration and was relatively quiet. He's not big to speak to the press. He's not big to push forcefully his opinions outside. He's very much one that will speak to you one-on-one in your conversations, but then it won't try to go around and talk about his positions outside of that. A soldier's soldier, as defense expert Michael O'Hanlon told me earlier today. But the one thing that a lot of people have pointed to, well, actually there are two things that people have pointed to, is that General Austin, while he has a ton of experience in the U.S. Central Command Theater, he is not necessarily prepared for the fight, the near-peer competition against Russia and China. And so he's going to have to get up to speed on that and how to run the entire Pentagon and the the highly technical things that are needed to prepare for those modernization moves. The second big point that has been made by several members of Congress, I should add, is that he will require a waiver. He retired in 2016, which means that he has been out of the Pentagon for fewer than 5 years. And the way that the United States works, the United States likes to have a civilian leader in the Pentagon, not a general, to keep that military and civilian leadership separate. And so he will require a waiver from Congress. And while Congress did that in 2016 with General Jim Mattis under the Trump administration, we have no idea if they are going to pass this waiver again. Even though this would be the first African American to get this post, it would be a big deal. It's still a big deal to pass 2 waivers in such a short period of time, to have another recently retired general running the Pentagon.
And besides just dealing with the issue of China and Russia, for most of our viewers across the continent, they always want to know what are some of the areas that the Defense Secretary may have to deal with. And of course, the Africans will be excited to see somebody who resembles them, hopefully, if he visits. But what are some of the areas on the continent of Africa he may have to deal with, some of the issues?
Well, we've hit the big ones. The big ones are preparing for Russia and China. As they're modernizing their forces, the United States needs to be modernizing as well. And the big problem with this is you're going to be preparing for these near-peer fights while you're going to be dealing with potential budgetary cuts. Because with the Democrats leading, typically you see cuts to the Pentagon. So how will Lloyd Austin, if he gets confirmed as the Senate's confirmation, when they confirm him to be Defense Secretary, how will he handle a budget cut while he's also doing that, while he's also simultaneously trying to get out of Iraq and Afghanistan? That is something that Joe Biden has said that he is very interested in doing. That is something that President Trump was very interested in doing. In fact, that was something that President Obama was very interested in doing, but no president yet has been able to fully get out of Iraq and Afghanistan. And Joe Biden has stressed that the conditions on the ground will need to lead before they can fully pull out, because there are serious counterterrorism issues. We know of several in Africa, across West Africa, in Somalia. But when you look at Afghanistan and Pakistan, for example, that is the largest concentration. More than 20 Islamist extremist groups are just in that area. So getting out of Afghanistan is probably going to be a lot harder than anyone who has tried in the past realizes until they get into the position. So Lloyd Austin will have a lot to handle in his tenure if he is confirmed. But again, we've got several Democrats in Joe Biden's own party already saying that they're hesitating to provide a waiver for him to get that position.
That was Dakhala, VOA Pentagon correspondent. Former Ghanaian President John Mahama is accusing the country's election commission of manipulating results in favor of the winner, incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo. Mahama says his party won both the presidential and parliamentary elections. Addressing his supporters in Accra, Mahama spoke about several issues, including that the aggregates on the summary sheets in some constituencies did not reflect on the polling stations being sheets. The Election Commission has not yet agreed to a full forensic audit as requested by Mahama. A European Union observer mission says the vote was well organized but noted several problems, including numerous instances of vote buying that resulted in an uneven playing field, according to Reuters. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our broadcast with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a South African rising star endeavors to make Zulu music and fashion a global trend. We'll be right back.
Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America headquarters here in Washington. I am Shaka Sali. Straight Talk Africa, we call it like it is. We discuss issues that reflect the interests of our audience without fear or favor. We are guided by facts, and I look at myself as a servant of nothing but the truth.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Nigerian health officials are on high alert Friday after the country's health minister warned Thursday that the West African nation may be on the verge of a second wave of COVID-19 infections. Osije Ihanri, speaking at a news conference in Abuja, said over 1,800 cases were recorded last week, compared with 1,200 3 weeks ago. Ihanri's comments came just one day after South Africa said it had officially entered a second wave. Health officials say the country is expecting to roll out a vaccine by April. Nigeria, with a population of 200 million people, has had more than 71,000 confirmed cases, nearly 1,200 deaths as of Thursday, according to Johns Hopkins University data. A U.S. government advisory panel on Thursday recommended emergency use of the Pfizer-Biontech coronavirus vaccine, which meant Americans could begin being vaccinated as soon as this weekend. Earlier this week, the country recorded its highest death toll from COVID-19, with more than 3,100 deaths in a single day. White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara has this story.
Open your syringe.
In anticipation of the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines, hospitals are training staff to administer them. On Thursday, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's Advisory Committee endorsed emergency use authorization for the Pfizer-Biontech COVID-19 vaccine after hearing a wide range of concerns.
The American public demands and deserves a rigorous, comprehensive, and independent review of the data.
The FDA does not have to follow the committee's recommendation, but is expected to do so. This means the vaccine could be administered as soon as this weekend, an achievement touted by President Donald Trump, who hosted a vaccine summit earlier this week without inviting members of President-elect Joe Biden's team. The transition teams have only recently started communicating as Trump continues to deny he lost the election.
The work that's been done is incredible. And it will be incredible for the next administration, and hopefully the next administration will be the Trump administration.
On the same day, Biden introduced his health team and detailed his plan to fight the coronavirus when he takes office in January. He asked Americans to wear a mask for the first 100 days, promised to reopen schools and deliver on vaccines.
At least 100 million COVID vaccine shots into the arms of the American people in the first 100 days. 100 million shots in the first 100 days.
Earlier this week, the U.S. recorded its highest death toll from COVID-19, with more than 3,100 deaths in a single day. There are now over 288,000 deaths and more than 15 million cases in the U.S., numbers that are expected to rise by the time Biden is inaugurated.
Focusing on the right communication messages, ensuring that healthcare professionals are equipped with what they need, ensuring that vaccine distribution is ongoing. All of that is really that starts on day one.
First to be vaccinated are the tens of millions of healthcare workers, followed by staff and residents of nursing homes, essential workers, people with underlying medical conditions, and older Americans. The rest of the population will have to wait until April or May of 2021. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
The United Nations World Food Programme was awarded the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize in a virtual ceremony Thursday. As Henry Ridgwell reports, the head of the organization warned that hundreds of millions of people are facing starvation around the world, exacerbated by the coronavirus pandemic.
A virtual ceremony amid the global pandemic. The World Food Programme's executive director accepted the prize by video link in Rome, headquarters of the organisation, and thanked the Nobel Committee in Oslo.
This Nobel Peace Prize is more than a thank you. It is a call to action. Because of so many wars, climate change, the widespread use of hunger as a political and military weapon, and a global health pandemic that makes all of that exponentially worse, 270 million people are marching towards starvation.
In 2019, the organization provided assistance to almost 100 million people in 88 countries. The Nobel Committee said in addition to combating hunger, the WFP, over its 60-year history, had contributed to bettering conditions for peace in conflict-affected areas and acted as a driving force in efforts to prevent the use of hunger as a weapon of war. The WFP's regional director in East Africa, Michael Dunford, gave VOA his reaction to winning the prize.
This has been a tremendous boost. 2020, as you know, has been one of the most difficult years. COVID has been yet another shock, in addition to some of the worst flooding in Eastern Africa, in addition to a locust plague of biblical proportions, and unfortunately, and this is the biggest concern, conflict and insecurity in so many of the countries that we're operating.
Dunford says the prize is a tribute to the WFP staff.
Working in some of the most difficult locations in the world, in sub-offices, deep in the field, be it either in Somalia or South Sudan, and really people who have to put their lives on the line to be able to support people who cannot feed themselves.
The World Food Programme has also coordinated medical logistics during the coronavirus pandemic. The WFP executive director warned that a failure by the international community to address the needs of those affected would cause what he called a hunger pandemic that would dwarf the death toll caused by the virus. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously on Thursday that 3 Muslim men who were put on the U.S. government's no-fly list for allegedly refusing to serve as FBI informants could sue FBI agents for monetary damages. Conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, a staunch champion of religious liberty, wrote the majority opinion saying the men may sue the agents in their personal capacity under a 1993 religious freedom law. The law, known as the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, allows litigants to obtain money damages against federal officials in their individual capacities. Thomas wrote in the 11-page opinion, the ruling was the latest in a string of decisions in support of religious freedom handed down by the conservative-controlled Supreme Court. Muslim American civil rights advocates are hailing the ruling. Well, it's time for our entertainment segment. One of South Africa's hottest rising stars, Aubrey Qwana, is blazing a trail to make Zulu music and fashion a global trend. He recently released a new EP and stunning visuals to some of its songs. Host of Music Time in Africa, Heather Maxwell, joined the young artist in a virtual interview to learn more.
All right. Hi, Aubrey. How you doing?
I'm good, and you?
I'm fine. Where are you right now?
I'm actually in South Africa, Johannesburg. That's where I'm based.
So thanks for joining me. You have a new music video out that I think it was released November 25th, around there, 2020?
Yes, Ukis. In Zulu, we call it Ukis. Actually, the song embraces love. It's all about love. I actually recorded the song during lockdown. I was chilling with my girlfriend, so I was like, you know what? Before I start making music, can I have a young case or something? And she was like, okay, cool. And then that developed to a song.
All right, let's watch a little bit first, and we'll come back and talk some more. I also appreciate that about your video, but I wanted to hear from you. You know, why did you pin that specifically?
Well, I'm very cultured, and I respect everyone that I work. I also have a kid. I wouldn't like to show a naked girl on my music video, and because my kid will grow up and see that, so and she'll think that's okay. Understand? So I want to live by example.
Thing about Zulu culture and community, and you sing in Zulu mostly, right?
Yes.
How do you render the fact that you want to sing in Zulu and stay true to Zulu, but you also want your music to go global, where you know that most listeners and viewers don't speak Zulu?
You know what's nice about that? Music is, I feel like it's its own language. Through the emotion, or someone to motivate me, or someone to say, yo boy, relax. Whatever you're going through right now, this is not the end of it. You're going to get out of it and be a better person. So I'm trying to be that guy or that young boy for the guys that are coming up, or for young people that are growing up.
So you went to school in fashion design. In the music video Ukis, you have a wonderful sense of style, and the previous one, Molo, which has over 3 million views and it's only recently released, it's just a big hit. Let me see that beautiful necklace. What does it say?
It says Aubrey.
Okay. In silver?
That's my logo. I designed this logo. I do my own art covers. I dress myself, I style myself, and I write my own music. And I produce my own, like I record myself and I mix my own vocals. You understand? The only thing that I outsource is beats. So everything that I grew up doing, finally it makes sense because it all came together and became one thing.
That must feel really great.
Amen. I feel like God had a plan. When God makes a plan for you, I feel like when it's time for that plan to shine, He makes sure that it shines.
It has been such a pleasure to talk to you, Aubrey. Qwana.
Yes. Thank you so much.
That was Music Time in Africa host Heather Maxwell and Aubrey Qwana, one of South Africa's rising stars. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.